Hey there again, it's Geoff Giordano of the APBA Football Club, here to bring you the 1980s installment of The Evolution of APBA Football. We've got a lot of examples here. Of course, this is the decade in which the great Master Game made its debut. With the 1982 season, of course, the strike season, and the season in which personal sack records were kept for the first time. Start with, we'll go into the typography a bit. We'll talk a little bit about the features of the Master Game, and we'll talk more importantly a bit about the compatibility of the game, an issue that we'll address as these charts are streamlined in the 1990s and then reintroduced as the basic game in the 2000s. Alright, so first of all, as we noted in the 1970s, the typography for the cards was a wider, larger sans serif. It's a very clean look. Here we see that it continues with the 1981 Bengals. This is the last season before the Master Game is introduced. You'll notice that, for example, defensively, there are no sack ratings, and we have no V ratings, the pass-run ability ratings. And you notice that the J rating is where it always has been. In 1982, of course, we see, someone helpfully labeled this envelope, the typography remained the same for the players, but that the injury rating now moves to the bottom left to be exact, and the J is in italics, and we'll see that that QS rating there allows players to be credited with sacks in addition to the W interception codes, and we also notice that the V ratings come into play for the defensive players. That's, in other words, when you add up basic numbers, you can play basic game and just use the defensive tackle 5, or you can play Master Game rules in which you total the defense's pass rating and run rating, which would be the V4 against the pass and 5 against the run. So it's pass-run ability, pass/run. I always thought it was run/pass, or in other words, at times I've been confused with it. Maybe that's just my orientation for more running-oriented offense, but V4/5 is defensive ability against the pass or against the run. And we see also that the main typography of the cards remains through the 1984 season. So, for example, the 1983 Raiders, we see the same typography and the J rating still at the bottom left there. We're also seeing that the AFC envelopes are in black, the NFC envelopes in the bright red, and the team names and cities are still on there. 1984, this is the last season for the 1970 introduced typography. So 1970 to 1984, that's your basic typography. Again, you see here in 1984, this is the Lions, you see the copyright line has been added. That's the first time, I believe. So back and double check here, it's a lot of moving parts here, yes. 1984, the copyright line is added, and it's also the last year for the basic envelope typography and player typography. 1985, of course, two things happened. One, team names are dropped in favor of just the city names, and the typography changes to a really elegant serif style. The injury ratings at bottom left get a little bit smaller there, and the corners are starting to get a little bit differently rounded. Now, we noted that starting with the 1964 AFL season, the AFC/AFL team envelopes have been printed in black. However, looking back now, we notice that at least in the sets we own for 1986, 1987, and 1989, the AFC/AFL envelopes are done in a kind of a darker red. So 86, or rather 89, 86, and 87. 88, you see the AFC is still in black. Now again, is that a definitive divide for the 86, 87, and 89 seasons, or simply a matter of whatever stock was in the hand? We don't know. As with many issues, a good way to note now the typography change between the 70s and 80s is to look at this uncut sheet of 1975 XFs. And 1975, of course, is the last season in which only 4 extra players were allowed or offered. In 1976, 5 players were allowed, but you see this 1975 sheet of uncut XFs shows you the large sans serif typography, and this uncut sheet of 1985 XFs includes 5 players per team and has that smaller, tighter serif style. Down to the actual function of the game, without going into too many details about the master game. Master game was initially a separate set of rules using the same boards. So in other words, you could play the basic or master version of the game with the same set of boards. They're the same big white boards, or same style big white boards, just with new plays, more options, and more defensive and offensive flexibility, and of course the wonderfully red-printed rare play charts, which are the same rare plays used today. I know several people have talked about how they built new rare play sheets of up to 30 pages, which is a nice way to update the game. Basically, the master game play cards represent the new trick play, the new draw play, the new, now called inside running play, not a plunge, the outside running play, the screen pass play, and the new medium pass play, and the short and long pass. Obviously, the typography is a little darker than the previous play cards. Basically, the master game allows offenses to use a full house backfield with 2 tight ends to go up 2 lines on a run result, and 3 wide receivers to go up 2 lines on a pass result. Conversely, the defense can add a nickel back to reduce the grade bonus a receiver gives his team, or add a dime back to drop the offense 2 lines on a pass play, or go up 2 against a run. And that's the master game in a nutshell, without going into the various line limits for calling various defenses. Compatibility, of course, is an issue, and as you can see, a key difference between the standard issue master boards from the 80s, and this set was purchased in 1987 to represent the 1986 season, versus the currently available master game charts, is that the original charts were broken down into first and third quarter results, and then second and fourth quarter results. When the game was reissued or revamped in the late 2000s, for some reason, the results were then broken down into the first and fourth quarters and second and third quarters. But we can tell you that if you have a 1982 season set up to the present, they play perfectly with these boards or the boards issued in the 90s. It's only the 1981 and earlier sets that need a different set of boards. the master game charts, and we'll just call an inside running play here. We'll look it up. The master charts really didn't change in terms of the results. Of course, in the kicking and return game, the numbers 37 to 42 were added, so that added more flexibility. And of course, the penalty charts have changed over the years, which we detail in our article on the evolution of APBA football. We won't get into that here, but essentially, the results are the same, whether you get the 80s classic big white boards or the today's charts. You just have to decide whether you want to break down the results by first and third quarter, then second and fourth, or first and fourth quarter and second and third. But let's just look at an inside run chart here from your offense is 15 to the defense is 31. A index versus a D line. The first or left column of results. TD 47, 6, 12, 5, 14, 2, 8, 3, 8, minus 2, 3, 3, 4, 24, or rather F24, that's on the 14, the half fumble number, 19, 10, etc., etc. The results are the same, even in the 30s. From 31 to 36, your results with the old or new charts are 3TE, RP3, F25, F24, 3TEJ, or TDTE. So, I mean, really it's up to you whether you prefer the book form or the chart form. Obviously, the charts can get a little large versus the spiral-bound book. But rest assured that you can use either set of master charts, and they're essentially the same. Now, if you use the, then it's about the 2007 set onward, you will get those extra 6 numbers, 37, 38, 39, 44, and 42 for your kickers, so that can skew your results a bit. But you can just find compatible numbers, comparable numbers from 11 to 36 and work that out. And that is essentially the 1980s. We'll get, again, more into compatibility with the 90s set, but essentially the difference between today's master game versus basic game is that both versions of the game, if you will, were contained in the APBA football game from 1982 to the 1982 season through to about 1993 season. That is when you use the same boards out of the box for basic and master game. And in fact, we'll just take a look here at the basic game rules. Find the index here on the back that talks about the definitive break between when you start using basic versus master rules. And it starts about here on page 14. That's where you would start using the different index refinements for defensive players. And as we noted, and we'll note in our 2000s video, the 2002 season is the first to feature V ratings for offensive players. So that's all for now. We have 3 more videos to make, the 1990s, 2000s, and 2010s, all with interesting envelope and typographical and functional details. Actually, one thing I do want to do over here is in the 1980s, you still have the great old field. It's a little darker and brighter green than some of the other ones, but still that same thickness. Again, it's the best board you can get, unless you want to take the board that you get in today's basic game and mount that on a piece of cardboard. And other than that, I think we're good for now. Until next time.